Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast, episode 22, Why Mobility Matters and Is It Limiting Your Performance? Today we have a guest on. His name's Mike. You've heard him before on here. He's one of our coaches and he's one of our mobility specialists. We're going to dig deep into mobility and everything that goes along with that. So buckle up, strap in, grab a drink, grab some food, kick back, and let's get it going. Strength Warehouse presents Go Heavy or Go Home podcast. I am your host, Nate Boley. In this podcast, we talk about strength, fitness, nutrition, and all things Strength Warehouse related. All right, guys, episode 22, Mobility Matters. I got Mike here. I'm going to let him introduce himself.
Hey, how's it going? This is Coach Mike again. I was here last time. We spoke a little bit about mobility back then as well.
Absolutely. It's been a little bit. So how's everything going? What's new?
Things are good. Just still coaching, as you can see daily. A lot of jiu-jitsu. Got a little injured, so I've had to take a step back from as much jiu-jitsu and put a little more focus towards the rehabilitative side.
Sure. So I know it was elbow.
It was.
That's about
right in my last competition.
Hear any weird noises?
A nice audible pop.
Oh, that's not cool.
It was a very small competition. There was only me and one other person, and we had 3 matches against each other. And in the second match, I lost that match.
Dang.
But yeah, he had a Americana arm lock on me, and
what's that?
So if you were to put your arm like a pitcher up and, like you're going to throw a ball, it's going backwards towards the back of your head,
Gotcha.
Your palm is, or the back of your hand.
But you're in like a right position?
Yeah. So he's basically forcing my arm back, and I'm trying to prevent that, and my body gave way.
Yeah, they're probably going to win. They have way more leverage.
Absolutely.
Way more muscle and way more tendons and all that type of stuff.
Absolutely. But the plus side is I won the third match. So
and you took
I took the gold, yeah.
I took the gold, so... Sometimes you gotta take one for the team.
It was worth it.
Cool. All right, let's jump into mobility. What's the deal with mobility?
It's necessary.
Yeah.
And not enough people do it.
For sure. It's one of those things. I think people, and I'm guilty of this. You get injured, you start doing some mobility or whatever, or you find a limiting factor, you start doing the mobility. As soon as you get out of pain or out of the discomfort, what happens?
Oh, I'm good. I must not need it anymore.
You stop doing it. Yeah, exactly. Everybody's guilty of that, I think.
Yeah, I think that, and everybody likes the idea of it, but to be totally honest, mobility is pretty boring.
It's boring and it's painful a lot of times.
Yeah.
Like you're sitting in a position that you don't own and you're tight and it's like super uncomfortable.
Yeah. You're just sitting there withstanding discomfort for, 1.5, 2 minutes, whatever.
Right.
It's...
Right.
Yeah.
Is mobility a limiting factor when it comes to fitness and performance?
I think it can be. I think it's going to be really dependent on what your sport, whatever your task is. I mean, if you take powerlifting, for instance, too much mobility, as you know, it's probably not a good thing.
Sure.
You want to be tight and snug and have everything well braced and everything tight enough to be able to handle those extreme loads. You get into something like yoga, and mobility is probably pretty helpful.
Yeah.
To be able to perform some of that.
I would say in powerlifting, you definitely want to stay mobile because but you definitely want to be able to brace hard. But like, for example, I used to train with these guys, and I still see it today, not those specific guys, but where a lifter will have to put more weight on the bar to get into a position. And I'm like, that's not ideal. If you can't sit in that position, you should definitely not be putting weight on and then trying to get into that position. They're like, I can only squat to parallel if I put 405 on the bar. Like, that's pretty bad, right?
You're like forcing yourself into those spots with weight.
In that spot, and that's going to be it's going to be a risk factor for injury.
Absolutely.
And then, of course, how heavy you can actually go. I think we both agree on both of that. Yes, it can be.
It can be.
It really depends on what you're doing.
It does. Yeah. It does. And then then it comes to looking at how much mobility do you need for your specific task. Like, again, powerlifting is a good example. Is you do want to have some mobility.
Sure.
You don't want to have too much mobility because that might not help you in your sport. If the ultimate goal is to get first, get gold on that platform, be the heaviest lifter for the 3 rep or three different movements, probably want to have everything dialed in as best as possible.
Yeah. Is it a factor when it comes down to injuries in injury prevention, having mobility?
This will probably be an answer you hear a lot from me today, but it can be.
Yeah.
It's can you get into certain positions and can you get into those easily and do you have strength at those end ranges?
Yeah.
If not, you're probably just waiting for the injury to happen.
Sure.
You know?
That's kind of what I was thinking again. Like, if you need 405 to squat into, you get into a squat position 90 degrees, it's probably some kind of limiting factor in your hip or your quads or hamstrings or something like that, something super tight, or your ankles or whatever. But the next weakest link is going to start giving out, right?
Yeah.
So if it's like maybe it's your low back, all of a sudden now you got low back pains because your lower body is not moving correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes, you know, people might even think that lower back is the issue itself when it's something totally different. Sure. So the focus isn't really even in the right spot. So they just, that issue continues on, and it's never really fully addressed or, you know.
Super frustrating. I've
Absolutely.
been there. I've been like low back pain, knee pain, not realizing it was hip or ankle. And so identifying why that's happening.
Yeah, I like to try and travel upstream and downstream a little from wherever that point of pain is, just because there's most likely something going on upstream or downstream.
Sure.
You know,
What's in your opinion, what's the biggest overlooked mobility area?
You know, I see a lot of people working on hips and shoulders, but I don't see a lot of work on people's thoracic region of their spine.
Sure.
Everybody wants to, you know, get their arms up overhead, do PVC pass-throughs, lots of internal external rotation, or sitting in a pause squat, or, you know, 90-90 stretch, whatever the case, but they're never really just getting into the thoracic spine, getting some extension and flexion there.
I think you really see that a lot in people who have bench pressed and hurt their shoulders because they're not able to. I've seen so many people that aren't able to articulate their scapulas. And I'm like, what? You can't move those things? And like, and I'm like, we need to work on that because you got to be able to move those things. Having your scapulas out of the way so your shoulders can have full range of motion is huge. And a lot of people don't even realize that. They just say, oh, my shoulder hurts. Yeah. Well, it's not that.
I mean, you see people pressing overhead quite often, that, you know, and they'll use dumbbells because the barbell is maybe too challenging, or you know, it doesn't feel right when they're getting overhead. But then the dumbbells are still going out quite a few, you know, a good 6 inches in front of their face. You know, because they don't have that range overhead.
Sure.
And it's not usually at the shoulder. A lot of times it's happening in their thoracic, or it's around that relationship between the scapula and the spine. They're not working in there. They're not breaking any of that tissue.
It's got to be caused by just our normal day lives where we're just hunched over on a computer in a car, sleeping, whatever we're doing that's not, you know, working on that mobility, right?
As I'm sitting right now, hunched over.
I'm like, Mike, check your posture. Check your
Good
posture.
thing this isn't video.
Yeah, right. Good thing not on video. Maybe someday. I think mine would probably be something really similar to that, or definitely like hip to spine mobility.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people just have really poor, you know, because we sit, so we're in an interior or a posterior or anterior pelvic tilt. And then you end up you hyperextend your spine, and then they don't work on that type of stuff, and then they go into squatting and deadlifting, and all that's just putting a lot of pressure on their low back, me included. So I just don't see enough people actually, when they're doing like their warm up movements, like making sure that it's stable, movement wise and all that type of stuff, and they're just going for it. They're working on maybe like the femur or whatever, but not actually like getting the hips to rotate correctly.
Yeah, I find with a lot of jiu-jitsu athletes, it's it's always tight in the hips because we're always in such a flex position, being in that open or closed guard. It tightens you up so much that if you're not addressing your hips, all of a sudden it starts getting tighter, and then positions are harder, and it's easier to pass your guard, and then you're getting beat up all the time.
Then you're getting submitted for sure.
Absolutely.
And when you're in those types of positions and it's actually really tight, a lot of the times certain muscles are weak.
Yeah.
Right? They're just not, like, I was learning this the other day, like, your hip flexor. Hardly ever do you work out your hip flexor.
Yeah.
Like, everybody works out their posterior chain and all that stuff, doing specific movements to work out the hip flexor to keep the hips in the right spot.
Yeah, I mean, that's a piece of mobility in general that's overlooked. Mobility, everybody thinks, stretching or some type of range of motion work, but they don't take the strength piece into consideration, because part of mobility is having strength at your end range that you can use. And, if you have weak muscles going on, it's going to prevent you from getting into better positions. You have a mobility issue.
Yeah.
It's a strength side of mobility, but it is still a mobility issue.
I think one thing that's overlooked a lot, just keeping on that track, is people will get into doing a mobility routine, they'll get loosened up, but then they don't address the movement pattern in the new way, right?
Yeah.
So like they don't strengthen that new position, and then it goes right back to old habits. Given a few weeks or months or even days, You get stretched out, you're feeling fine, so you just go right back to it. You don't strengthen that position, and you end up with the same problems over and over and over again.
Yeah, and having a good test and retest is helpful for that, to kind of get past that, because if your hips are feeling tight, so you could test it with maybe an overhead squat. You do then your mobility routine, you retest that overhead squat, you're going to see immediate changes if you've fixed or
Sure.
helped the problem out.
And that's going to help you now re-strengthen that position in your new flexible, mobile position, or mobile, whatever you want to call it. I'll just call it position for lack of better words.
And you're also able to then kind of assess what's going on with your little test. So maybe if you're always hitting something for your hip flexors, and you go to squat and hey, that maybe doesn't feel like the issue today.
Sure.
You can slowly but surely get a little bit more body awareness and find out where some common issues are happening, and then up the frequency on certain areas that might be having more trouble.
Another thing is I see common, including myself, is we'll work on things that we're good at, or they're easy for us, and not work on the things that are really difficult but are going to make the biggest difference. Which segues right into my next question. What are some simple mobility areas that you see make the biggest difference? Like once you've done something, and I guess this is subjective as well, but let's just go with like a squat. Like if somebody came to you and said, hey, my squat sucks, you did an assessment, what are usual go-to things? Like we're all human, we all have similar movement patterns and stuff.
Yeah, I like one of the ones I go with, there's one called the World's Greatest Stretch. That one's kind of nice. You're getting a really flexed hip, and you're kind of externally rotating the forward leg. You could do that banded as well, which is really nice, because then it's going to pull that hip socket kind of more out towards or that ball socket is going to pull that hip out a little bit.
Yeah.
And you could put quite a bit of tension on there before anything bad is going to start happening.
I actually did that, not yesterday, but whenever day I squatted. Maybe it was yesterday? Yeah, it was yesterday.
I did it like 20 minutes ago.
Yeah.
My hip's been giving me some trouble, and threw the band on, sat 2 minutes in the bottom position each side, and feel right as rain.
For years now, every time I squat, my right side right above the glute, right where the hip is, after squatting session, that gets just locked up. Mm-hmm. And that didn't happen this time. And it's most likely because of banded distraction, making sure the hip's correct, and I'm able to get in that position without compensating with my lower back is probably what was going on.
Right.
In my opinion.
I mean, I like the sitting in the bottom position of a squat, like, doing like a prying goblet squat. That can be really helpful for just getting the hips open. And there's a hip reset that's really nice, because sometimes the pelvis just gets just a little offset. Maybe one side's leaning a little more forward than the other. It just feels like it's clicked out of place.
Yeah.
And you just do a little push-pull with your legs, lying on your back, kind of resisting the push out on the bad side, resisting the pull in on the good side. A couple rounds of that for 5 to 8 seconds. Drop the knees to the floor, squeeze the knees together. It can make a little pop in there. It feels really nice. I'll put a video together and shoot that out on the Strength Warehouse members page so people can see this.
I've done those before.
It's
Don't
really
you want
helpful.
to do both though?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. If it's quick and first set of squats feels terrible and I just need a quick adjustment, I might go and adjust it real quick and then continue squatting. But yeah, I'll get back to it and try and hit both sides.
Okay. Cool. Do you have any just regular easy tips for staying mobile once you've gotten to a position where you're feeling good?
I think it comes down to having just a good daily practice.
Sure.
I hate to use the word routine for this, because then people think they have to have a log book and maybe create some big grand scheme. Really, it's just having 1 or 2 spots that you want to throw some focus on every day.
Yeah.
If you tend to sit a lot for work, maybe you should throw some focus on shoulders and thoracic, or maybe hips and shoulders.
Yeah.
Pick 1 to 2 movements, and then you're only looking for about 1.5, 2 minutes on each side daily.
Sure.
It takes no time. Most people are going to have at least a half hour in front of a television daily.
You can sit on the floor.
Oh yeah, might as well. You're already there.
We got rid of the carpet in our living room, so now we're on wood floor, and that's the worst. Stretch out on wood floor, it's so painful. This sucks. I don't want to do this at all, but I still do.
Mobility's hard enough,
Yeah, I mean, we have a little carpet, but it's still not. There's no padding under it or anything, so it just sucks.
I have the benefit of a mat room in my garage. I matted it out during the start of the pandemic, and now it's great. I can go out there and do my mobility work, maybe peel up some mats, bring them inside for the kids, and do some mobility inside.
Should probably get a couple of yoga mats just to do them on or something, because
Couldn't hurt.
Because I'm The couch is really comfortable right now, and that wood floor looks very painful.
And actually for cases like that too, if somebody's trying to get into the hips, you have the seated couch stretch.
Yeah.
You don't even need the floor.
It's true. Yeah, it's true. What do you see like mobility mistakes that people are doing?
Not enough patience in the positions they're trying to improve. Somebody will maybe do a PVC pass through and get that pipe up overhead, and they'll just kind of swing it through haphazardly a few times. It's not really focused and controlled, and they're done within less than a minute.
Sure.
Like no changes have actually happened there.
No, you got to be in a couple minutes.
Especially if you consider how long did it take for this area to get out of whack.
Sure.
Is this a couple years of sitting at a desk?
Mm-hmm.
If it is, I'm pretty sure that 30 seconds, 45 seconds of movement is not going to fix 3 years, 5 years.
I think that's honestly, that happens with fitness too.
Yeah.
We're like, hey, I want to get fit in 6 months. We're like, okay, but you haven't done anything for 10 years.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't going to be a 6-month fix. Now, will you see some gains in doing a PVC mobility thing for 30 seconds? You're going to see a little bit.
Yeah.
Is it going to be where you need it to be? No. Not even close. And as you progress in your fitness journey and you get stronger and everything like that, and it's just going to take more time.
Yeah.
That's why when you get to a super high level of strength or whatever, the recovery almost becomes more than the workout.
Absolutely. Well, and then you have the another issue I see is people that maybe they do spend enough time in any given bout of mobility. They hit their 2 minutes per side, but then they don't do anything after. It's just kind of like, okay, I'm done.
Yeah.
But now you've gotten things mobile, but now we need to teach the body how to move through that pattern correctly, so we can keep that mobility we're earning.
Mm-hmm. Yep. No, that makes a lot of sense. I think the biggest mistake I see in mobility, especially in powerlifting, is when you're on a block, and I'm terrible about this too. So when the weights start getting heavier as you get closer to the top of your 1 rep max, you don't address, now you're hitting heavier weights, but you're not ramping up your mobility as well. And by the time you get to your 1 rep maxes, your body is so tight that you can't get in the correct positions to actually leverage the right way. And that's where injuries happen or PRs don't happen, because you're not the same. You can't get in the same position as you were when the weights were lighter as they are heavier, because you're not ramping it up.
Yeah, and keeping the focus on body position, it's whether you're lifting a super heavy 1 rep max or you drop your keys on the floor and you're going to pick them up, position matters.
What about putting on your shoes?
Nah, doesn't matter. No.
That's why I don't.
Shoes don't count.
I have shoes that you can just slip on, or sandals.
Putting them on standing. That's why I'm wearing slippers.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I mean that's when a lot of injuries happen. Is in both extremes. Somebody drops keys on the floor and they go to pick it up and they look like a question mark. And then they're curious. Oh man, I hurt my back. It must be all that heavy lifting.
No,
is it?
It's probably just the not being mobile.
Yeah, just not paying attention to how you're moving through space.
Yeah. All right. So one big question is like, how does somebody know when they need some mobility work, like red flags, signs, something that they can be like, hey, I need to do some more work in this one position?
I mean, a lot of people look for pain. They think if I'm not experiencing pain, then everything must be good. But I think pain's kind of a poor indicator, just because I feel like it's very late in the game.
Yeah, it's a lagging indicator.
Once pain's there, you've had the problem probably for a little bit.
Yeah, for
sure. So I think finding different benchmarks for yourself for certain movements, because then you could take into consideration past injuries or any physical reasons why you might not be able to reach full range of motion. Getting your arms up overhead and type of like a swimmer's pose, hands together up overhead, your biceps are in line or just behind the ears. That's a pretty easy position to look in a mirror and know whether or not you can hit that position. And if maybe for some reason one side is tighter than the other when you're getting up overhead, or you can't get full extension at the elbows, maybe something is tight there,
Sure.
And you can feel that tightness as you start to get in these positions, and that's a pretty clear indicator if something's just not moving super well.
Yeah.
It's not the only indicator, but it's a really easy one, especially for our regular members who are in here getting warm-ups 3, 5, 6 days a week.
Sure.
So
you think like maybe doing like once every few weeks, just doing a full assessment and kind of see where you are?
Yeah, and it doesn't even have to be full. You could do every other week. Like this Friday, I'm going to assess my hips and just see how things are feeling. It was maybe a rough week of, hiking the Three Sisters or whatever. If you can kind of base it or change it around the activities you had, and just to make sure, hey, did anything get goofed up?
Sure.
But then switch maybe the next week. Now you're looking at the upper body. You're looking at shoulders, your thoracic spine.
Yeah.
Even your neck, and it's just I would try and set it up on some type of a scheduled basis to where in this given week you're just going to take a look at a few things and just see how they're doing.
Sure. You probably recommend coming to see you every now and again.
Absolutely.
Probably every couple months or so. If so, just to say, hey, what's up? Give me an assessment, or seeing one of our coaches and just being like, hey, let's make sure that we're getting into the right positions. And obviously you've seen a lot of success with your people that are coming to see you at the gym, and seeing their body mechanics just be way better.
Yeah, being able to get lower positions in their squat. They're able to get the hands straighter up overhead.
Yeah.
Less pain in certain positions. And there's always going to be things that kind of, if you have a shoulder surgery and maybe for some reason that shoulder just is not getting back into that position, can we get it as close as possible without pain? But just doing maybe a little half-hour assessment, just to even for the education piece. Just doing one assessment doesn't mean they have to jump on board and follow me for the next 6 months.
Yeah.
But it can give them some insight as to what they should focus on certain days of the week.
Absolutely. Just give them like, hey, before you do get into squat day, make sure you're doing this, or before bench day, make sure you're doing this, or whatever. That will definitely help them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I was thinking, I haven't brought this up until just now, but do like some kind of a mobility clinic.
Yeah.
Where we could just get like multiple people at one time, and we could just work on maybe the overhead squat or shoulder mobility or whatever we're finding like majority of the people are complaining about or needing help with.
Because there's not a lot of time before class or even after class, especially on, and being morning classes. We go straight on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 6 to 7 a.m. class.
And then the next one goes right in.
Yeah,
right in.
There's a lot of times a mobility or a PT session going out in the lobby, and so there's not a lot of space for them to really focus on what they need to focus on. So having a designated time would probably be super helpful for a lot of people here.
100%. Yeah, we'll have to follow up on that and make that a thing.
Definitely.
All right, man. So you're heading up an event next week, and you're going to be the head speaker for Strength Warehouse, right? Yeah.
So we're doing an event at the Hale Men's Clinic. It's Men's Health Night. We're basically talking about health and vitality for men as we age. It is not just men allowed. Women can come too if maybe the husband doesn't want to come on in for some extra info, but the wife really wants him to have that info. She could feel free to come on in too. So.
Can you talk about what you're exactly going to talk about, or is that classified information?
Yep, we can get into that a little. So basically, what I'm going to be speaking about is just how strength training can help with health and longevity. As we're getting older, especially mobility being a topic today, those kinds of things will start to diminish as we age if we're not on top of it.
Yeah.
It's not just going to magically happen. If you are on top of it and you're taking care of yourself, you're going to be able to last a little longer, and have better strength, range of motion, and movement as you age. But, if we're not paying attention to that, then all of a sudden it falls to the wayside, and then everything hurts.
And then the biggest problem is it's not like a quick fix at that point.
Yeah.
I like to tell this to everybody, health and fitness is just like investing. If you start and consistent with it for your whole life, it's going to be easy going into your elderly years. If you wait until you're 50 and then you start doing it, it's going to be so many years of peeling back all that dysfunctional movement, maybe several surgeries, whatever. Maybe you're never going to get back to it. So if you don't invest early on and then you start investing later on, by the time you get retirement, you're not going to have anything to really go back on. So, and of course, everything at the end of the day is quality of life.
Yeah.
So if you're not able to move when you're 50, you're not going to have a great quality of life. You're going to get up every single day and just be like, I'm in pain. This sucks. That's not fun.
No.
You definitely cannot thrive in life when you wake up every day and you're in pain.
No, and a 300-400 pound deadlift is really cool, but not if you can't do what you want when you want to do it because you can't move or things.
Well, what about 700?
Okay, that's pretty cool.
Not being able to put on your shoes.
There's a give and take there.
Yeah. No, I learned that the hard way several times. So I've dedicated more mobility going forward.
Yeah.
It's always it's a give and take thing. Sometimes I'm not always good on my mobility. Sometimes I'm better than I should be or better than I have been. But it's just about, again, consistency is July's, topic of the month, right? Just staying consistent, and if you fall off, just get back on. It's that simple. It's a conscious decision you have to do every single day. And the one thing I like to tell a lot of people is just win the next decision. So if the next decision is doing mobility or not doing mobility, you know what the winning answer is. So go ahead and do it.
Yeah, you don't have to start till the best day to start any of this stuff is yesterday.
Well, what do they say? What's the saying? It's like the best time to plant a tree was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
The second best time to plant a tree is today.
Yeah.
That's all you got. So you can always wait till tomorrow, but then again, you're going to lose out on the stuff you have now.
I mean, it's common for people to say that. Oh wow, this week's a wash. I'll just go ahead and start Monday. But Monday is just a name we gave to a specific piece on a calendar that we created. So why not just start today?
I get that all the time. I can't do it. I can't do this right now. I got to wait till March. I got to wait till whatever. I'm like, really? You think you're going to start in March? Probably not.
Like, just do something.
Just do something. And if you can start a routine or something when you are so busy and you feel like you can't do it, you're going to be successful when you're not busy, right? Because it's going to be easier to do.
Absolutely.
So I try to get that through people's heads all the time, that it's really, really difficult one to get through. But starting now is obviously the best you can do.
Well, yeah. Having anything is going to be better than nothing. Even if it's a terribly put together mobility or strength program, if you're doing it 100%, it's going to be much better than a perfect program not done at all.
Sure. Well, man, I'm super stoked for the opportunity that Strength Warehouse has presented itself to you and being able to speak. When I presented it to you, I wasn't sure that you were going to be into it, but it sounds like you super are.
All about it.
I'm bummed that I couldn't do it as well with you, but next time. There's always next time. We're going to be in Vegas going to Powerlifting Nationals this week, so Mike took one for the team, and he's going to be out there presenting. So go ahead and go check him out and give him your support. But yeah, man, that's all I got for you. Any last words?
No, I appreciate you having me on again. It was a lot of fun.
Get on your mobility.
Yeah, come see me if you need help.
Yeah, or hit up Mike. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate you being here. Again, we're really trying to push our reach out there for our free Facebook group, Healthy Central Oregons, or Health and Wellness for Central Oregonians. You don't have to be a Central Oregon person to jump on there, but there's a lot of free tips on there. And I'll link the Facebook page in the notes. Go ahead and check it out, and we'll let you in and start giving you guys some info. Anyway, thanks a lot, and we'll see you on the other side. Thanks for joining us on this epic journey of strength. If you liked this episode, please leave us a review and share with a friend. To stay connected, hit that subscribe button. All right, until next time, go heavy or go home.